Hello and welcome to The Big Fight. Gandhiji is back in the headlines in more ways than one over the last couple of weeks. There was one thing that people have been talking about, it's been the World Cup. And then people have started to talk about a person who's been using very Gandhian methods, Anna Hazare, fasting for the Jan Lokpal bill, using the methods and techniques that were once taught by Bapu. And that at the time when there's also a demand on a book that's come out on Gandhiji. It actually has been banned in some places because of certain references it makes about Gandhiji's habits and things like that. So Gandhiji very much back in the headlines. Are his methods, are his ideals still of any relevance now in 2011 and going forward? That's a substantive subject of discussion today, and a great panel to help us go through it. Tushar Gandhi, gives us great pleasure to welcome you onto the program. Thanks so much for being with us. Sohail Seth, do you agree with Gandhi's ideals, Gandhi's methodologies? We'll be getting your views from it. Somebody who thinks that those methods are being used and can be used very effectively, Sandeep Pandey, former professor at the IIT Kanpur, but somebody who's got the Magsaysay Award in 2002 for emergent leadership. Shiv Vishwanathan, it's a pleasure to have you with us. You've been a professor in a large number of places. You've also written extensively, and not least about the ruckus over the recent book that came out on Gandhiji's life. Great to have you with us. Sam Miller, British journalist and author, now here in India. Wonderful to have you with us to talk about Gandhiji. And finally, Sunando Datta Roy, former editor of The Statesman, a frequent contributor to various publications such as the International Herald Tribune, somebody who's been somewhat against conspicuous consumption, but also doesn't think that Gandhian notions like cottage industry can always work. Thank you so much for being with us. Tushar Gandhi, why don't I start with you? The methods that were once used by Gandhiji in a different time, in a different place, against a different sort of an enemy, if I can call them that, still relevant today?
Oh yes, I think they're relevant. They're going to be relevant even 100 years later. Why not? Why not only in India? You know, India. You said enemy. In the Gandhian terminology, there is no enemy. You're just trying to improve your fellow human
so-called
being.
enemy.
So there is no enemy, but even beyond our shores, what happened in Tahrir Square in Egypt?
It's not that these movements are always non-violent. I mean, so you're making a relevant point that people coming out onto the streets in mass processions, in a sense, is Gandhian, but sometimes it doesn't stay non-violent.
Well,
in Libya, it's not been non-violent.
The 1942 movement also in India was not cent percent non-violent. There was the violent movement that also went parallelly with the things, and the contribution towards independence was largely because of the mass non-violent movement, but the revolutionaries also had their role to play in it.
Okay. So here a little later we're going to come to Gandhian ideals, but let's discuss Gandhian methods first. Still work, still have relevance, or increasingly irrelevant?
I think we have a bunch of thick-skinned people running this country. So if you go to them through the courts, if you go to them through electoral politics, nothing will happen. You will keep electing the same crooks you've elected. You will keep having dynasties in power. You'll have the same jokers running the country. My point is, we have everything to gain with Anna Hazare at the helm of this crusade. We have nothing to lose. But the point we can't get any worse than we are already today.
Sandeep Pandey, you often attended left-of-center gatherings, including, CPI-ML gatherings, and you've not always been critical of the Naxalite methods because you felt that they sometimes don't have a choice. Right. Now, the Naxalites are also people who are protesting, but they're protesting in exactly the opposite manner to that which Gandhiji would have ever approved of.
Issues that are being raised by the Naxalites are definitely very genuine issues. They are the outcome of exploitation and corruption in the interior areas of this country for a very, very long time. And we must realize that some tribal living, far inside some jungle does not have the option that people like us have, the activists, who can go to the district headquarters and organize a protest. So their issues are definitely genuine. We don't support the method of violence.
Sometimes for a tribal in Bastar, he doesn't have the option of using Gandhian methods. He has to pick up the gun and shoot a policeman. Is that what you're saying?
Sure. To be more specific, I was talking to the CPI former MLA from that area, Manish Kunjam, himself a tribal leader. And we were asking him the reasons why the Naxalites were able to get support from that area. And he said 3 government departments, police, forest, and revenue, they are essentially responsible. The exploitation that they carried out provided a base for the Naxalites to gain sympathy there when they countered the corrupt officials and the contractors and,
Shiv Vishwanathan, the problems in a sense are the same. I mean, across this country now there's a feeling of revulsion at corruption, at what we are seeing, people in power just not bothering about what the average person is going through. This is just a microcosm of what's happening in other countries as well. The methods used to fight it?
Look, I think let's be clear. Social scientists are wet blankets.
You're going to be a wet blanket out here.
Yeah, the Gandhi had a collection of methods. Yeah. It moved from sexuality to technology to politics. Anna Hazare has a method. So let's not equate the two. It is a Gandhian method. Sorry, I think it's time we get some facts straight.
Okay, would you like to elaborate on it? I think that's a fascinating point.
Anna Hazare did not experiment on the body. Anna Hazare had no theory of sexuality. Anna Hazare had no theory of the oppressor in the way Gandhi had. Because he wanted to actually rescue, the aim of English nationalism, Indian nationalism, was to rescue the British.
Correct.
From modernity. It's a much more complex theory. Okay. To equate everything and say it's Gandhian, I think sometimes it's a bit simplistic. So first, let's pay tribute to Anna Hazare where it deserves. It's a tremendous act of idealism and courage.
So you're saying...
Second point, corruption is much more complex.
Tell us about it. We've been trying to figure out how to deal with it for 70 years, maybe for thousands of years.
It's much more complex than sexuality.
We've been actually grappling with sexuality also for thousands of years, now that you mention it. But
corruption is complex.
So is sexuality. So as a matter of fact, sexuality.
Yeah, but then you need different kinds of tactics, and you need a psychoanalysis of those who... Okay, very simple.
Okay, let's come to sexuality a little late.
You can't, what's the Lokpal bill going to do about the nature of the informal economy? There's structural questions which cannot be solved by exemplars. Exemplars can show the lead.
Okay,
but the battle of corruption is the long-range one.
Let's...
NDTV's cricket app, Android and iPhone. Fastest scorecard, special analysis, and much more. Download free. ndtv.com/apps.